You know, one of my pet peeves was when somebody told me that they didn't believe in God. Why? Because, like, for me, God is just so logical and reasonable to believe in, right? Because it is much more logical and reasonable to believe that someone created everything rather than nothing created everything. I mean, thinking that nothing created everything is illogical and unreasonable. And it's against the scientific law of cause and effect. But part of the reason why this person told me that they didn't believe in God is because when they were a child, their parents made them go to church. And they went to a church that didn't give them any understanding or good teaching about who God actually is, about life, about the Bible. They didn't give any understanding or explanations about that. The parents told them to get up, go to church, and didn't even tell them why they need to go to church. So I had to explain to her like who God is. And I had to tell her that, God is a spirit. Oh, and spirit in the Hebrew, the word is ruah, and part of that definition of ruah is the energy of life. It's life energy. Now, even an atheist believes in energy. They might not want to call this life energy God, but that's who it is. And this life energy, this is the energy that creates and sustains life. And in order to sustain life, you need to have positive traits. You need to be hopeful. You need to be authoritative. You need to have courage and be full of action. You need to be joyful and full of peace. That is this life energy. That is God. Jesus is this holy, pure, light energy wrapped up in a human body. That is who Jesus is. This holy, pure, light energy in a human body. And so I was telling one of my friends about Jesus. He was a Buddhist, and I was feeling proud of myself because I explained this very well to where even he can understand it. And he had no choice but to choose whether or not to believe it or not to believe it, because he says it makes logical and reasonable sense the way I explained it. And I told him that this life energy that created the entire universe, created the earth, created all things, got put into this human body, and we call him Jesus. And he came back with a question, so Jesus is essentially God then? And I said, yes. And he says, well, but he's the Son? And he was like, yeah, make that make sense. And this right here explanation is the best I can come up to explain the Trinity. The Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Alright, so you got the Father, the Son, then you got the Holy Spirit, right? For some reason we put it in that way, but this is the deal. You can't be a father unless you have a son. You can't be a son unless you have a father. You have to use those interchangeably. And now the Holy Spirit, right? This Holy Spirit, who is the Father and is put into the Son, is not just the Son and the Father. You see in the book of Revelations, multiple times it says that there are 7 spirits of God. And these 7 spirits, right? These 7 forms of light energy, life energy. They are, it says right here in the book of Isaiah chapter 2, the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him. Now the Spirit of the Lord is the Spirit of truth. The Spirit of truth is 1. The Spirit of wisdom, 2. The Spirit of understanding, 3. The Spirit of counsel, 4. The Spirit of might, 5. The Spirit of knowledge, 6. And the fear of the Lord is 7. Now these are the 7 life energies, the 7 spirits of God. It's not just the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, like it says, the umbrella term, umbrella spirit for all these other spirits that are also holy, that are also God. Because the Spirit of wisdom is holy, the Spirit of understanding is holy, counsel and might is holy, knowledge is holy, fear of the Lord, a deep reverential respect for the Lord, that's what fear is holy, and truth is holy. They're all Holy Spirits. So they just got put in this category underneath the Holy Spirit, because that's the best way that we could, and it's the quickest way we can understand it in our English language. So we categorize the Trinity in this Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I explained this to this Buddhist that I know. And he says it makes logical sense. Now getting him to believe it was a whole nother part about Jesus dying and rising from the dead. He knows it makes sense, but getting him to believe it is a whole different story. In order for somebody to believe the gospel, This is the number one thing that they need. They need humility. Most people are prideful. Prideful means that you think that you're right. You don't want to hear nobody. You can't tell me nothing. That's that pride energy, which is energy of the devil. But that is the number one thing somebody needs to believe in Jesus is humility. If they ain't got humility, then they ain't gonna believe anything you got to say. They're gonna be looking for a debate and not understanding. But also, one of the things that can give people humility is love. When you genuinely show love for somebody and spend time with them and treat them as a friend, somebody you would die for, they're more likely to listen to you and look for understanding instead of debate. You know, that was some of the thoughts that was on my mind. I want to talk about that. And hopefully this brings some clarity about the Trinity, about who God is, about life. This holy energy we call spirit, we call God, we call Jesus. If you learned something today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. All right, I'm out.